Hello, fellow Rebel Capitals. Hope you're well. Wanted to go over an article from CNBC that talks about the central banks and how their views on inflation may change going forward and how that might impact you. Their secrets are being revealed, as I said in the title. Let's go right over to this story and check it out. And there we go. So CNBC Daily Open, the Fed wants inflation at 2%. But the economy might be fine with higher inflation. So what they're talking about is how central banks around the world may be changing their inflation target to where it was 2%, not that they could even hit that target, but now that they've way overshot it, well, maybe we shouldn't get so worried about the 2%. Maybe it should be 3, maybe it should be 4, which sounds very benign until you get out like a compound calculator or a compounding interest calculator and just type in 4% over 20 years and see how big of a number that is. So getting into this article, what they maybe inadvertently disclose is how arbitrary pretty much everything the central planners do. Let's check this out. So they go over what you need to know today, and I think this is kind of how maybe this is their start of the morning type of blog post here. So where they get into this 2% inflation target increasing, and again, this even assumes they can achieve their target, which if the last 12 years is any indication, they can't. I mean, it's either way too low or it's way too high. I mean, but my point is, by them trying to achieve higher inflation than they were trying to before, it will screw up the economy that much more. But getting to the point of the article here, the 2% inflation target has been repeated so often by Fed officials and central bankers worldwide that it seems absolutely crucial to the health of the economy. And you know what's amazing is the conclusion the author comes to is not the Fed is completely arbitrary. The Fed doesn't know what they're doing. The fact that we have an inflation target at all is completely ridiculous. The conclusion he comes to is that since the number was arbitrary to begin with, well, then why can't we just make it higher? Like, no, stupid. The whole point is having the target to begin with is ridiculous. Why do we even want inflation? Why do we want prices always going higher? Makes no sense, Josh. I'm just saying, Josh, not my Josh. I was just saying Josh Bivens, director of research at the Economic Policy Institute. Now, this is some interesting, actually, history, and I didn't know this. In fact, it was invented. So this inflation target that now is just universal, and the talking heads on CNBC assume that it's just written in stone as just policy. Like, well, we need air to breathe. Well, yes, I know we need air to breathe and water to drink, but we also need 2% inflation. Like it's at the same level. So this goes back to New Zealand in the 1980s. Arthur Grimes, professor of well-being. So you know he knows what he's talking about. And public policy at Victoria University said that New Zealand was experiencing skyrocketing inflation then. And the central bank picked an inflation target seemingly out of nowhere. Their words, not mine. So that it could work toward some sort of goal. So now introduce the Canadian Central Bank, knowing that this is totally arbitrary, completely subjective. It's not based on rationale. It's not based on models. It's not based on data. It's not based on fact. Not even based on common sense. And they look at what New Zealand's doing and say, oh, yeah, sounds good. Let me read this next paragraph. Other central banks followed suit. In 1991, Canada announced its inflation target. United Kingdom the year later. And then in 2012, the U.S. declared the same thing, 2% inflation target. Wow. Just what's really amazing is that people think the Fed and these central banks are so powerful and they are so brilliant that we need to just hang on their every word because these people are so incredibly qualified. They are so intelligent. They're so wise that we should delegate all of our thinking and decision making to them. And yet, when you pull back the veil, when you pull back the drape, you see that it's not the Wizard of Oz. It's just some little dude, some little guy right there. And it's the same thing here. You know, the mainstream media likes to put them up on a pedestal as though they're like all knowing. And that, you know, obviously we need central planning and we need the central planners to be the best and the smartest among us. And obviously that's what we have currently with the central bankers. But yet when you dig beneath the surface, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. These people, they're not even that smart. In fact, they're the opposite. All they're doing is just coming up with some random number, and then all the other lemmings are just following in behind them. It's very similar to all of the ratings agencies, or maybe not the ratings agencies specifically, but the Wall Street analysts back prior to the GFC. Remember when all those stories actually came out, when they asked the analysts, like, why on earth weren't you talking about the housing crisis or stocks that would be impacted by this and blah, blah, blah. And they said, oh, well, basically, we wanted to just go with the herd. Because if you think about it, if you go with the herd and everybody is wrong, you're not going to get fired. So it's much better to be wrong with the herd than right by yourself. And as we can see, it's most likely the exact same thing with the central planners. But they're not trying to be right. They're just trying to keep their job, giving them the benefit of the doubt, assuming there's no malicious intent. But the fact that they're just trying to keep their job means that they'll just fall right. They're just sheep, basically. They're sheeple. And unfortunately, what we have done is we've given the sheeple the power to control the price of money. And money or currency is 1/2 of every single transaction. So we have given the sheeple the power, the people that least deserve the power. We have given these individuals the ability to basically put price control, determine the price of every single thing we buy. If you think about the fact that the interest rate is the price of money, and money is 1/2 of every transaction. So that price of money is influencing the price of all the goods and services. And we're delegating that to the people that much prefer to be wrong with the herd than right on their own as an individual. Think about how twisted that is. We're doing the exact opposite. We're incentivizing the opposite behavior of what we need to have. Well, what we really need to have is just no central bank. That would fix the problem in and of itself. So main takeaway here is, number one, central planners are lemmings. Pretty much knew that. Number two, is expect this 2% inflation target to increase in the future. Not just when one central bank does it, they're all going to file in. And it's not that they're going to achieve the higher inflation objective, but they're going to try. And in doing so, they're going to screw up the economy, the global economy, more than they already have. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. As always, make sure that you're standing up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism. See you in the next video.